Hello, hello. Start a couple minutes early, make sure the sound is right. Will somebody tell me if the sound sounds good in the chat right now? And as per usual, I'll wait 60 seconds until the time I said I would start before I get into business. Um, Anyone who hasn't already, will you tell me where you're tuning in from in the chat? That's always fun to see. Also, sorry for this crazy light. Nothing I can do about it. I got my shades up, but it's still very moody. Nice 70s tones. Goes with my hair. Can anybody hear me? No one has chimed in yet. I guess you can because everybody's telling me where they're at. Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Oh, man. Oh, man. It's almost 3 o'clock. There we go. Bam. Bam. There we are. Hello, everyone. It's been a minute since I did one of these. I guess I did one after Greenland. But this is a big one. It's time for me to say goodbye to New Zealand, Aotearoa. It's been over a year since me and Triteia showed up, and it's been a wild ride. I want to start out first things first, some business here. I am doing my first ever Zoom class workshop on anchoring, and I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. If it'll let me. Oh, it says there's too many things. Just a sec. My link is too long. Just a sec. Rhonda, will you pull the link off of my svtriteia.com site and post it for me in the chat? So I'm doing an anchoring workshop next weekend, where it's going to be a Zoom class. It's limited to 100 spots. And I'm going to be talking about the basics of anchoring, what you need to know to keep your boat safe, you're safe, and your family safe. It's pretty much like there'll be something to be learned for anyone who has done limited anchoring, never anchored their boat before, or you've only anchored in your home waters and never ventured far out. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. So that class is $35. Oh, hello, Sarah. Sarah just tuned in. That class is $35 and will be a week from today. So I'll get a link posted right now. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, here we go. So if you go to that news section, there's a link to that, to the workshop where you can buy a ticket if you want to check that out. It's hard for me to keep up with the chat, so I'm going to ramble a little bit, and then I'll come back and answer questions as I go. So yeah, final days in New Zealand. I thought that I was going to leave on the 18th, and I applied for my Australian visa. I applied for the year-long visa. And since I applied for the year-long visa, one of the requirements is a full physical and chest x-ray. And the closest place I could get that, I'm in Nelson right now on the South Island. The closest place I could get that was in Wellington, and it was like a week away. The appointment was a week away from when I found out that I had to have this requirement. So it ended up, I missed my weather window on the 18th. I found out from Vicky Moore of Island Cruising New Zealand. She was like, oh, she's the one that told me for sure that it was because I applied for the year-long visa and not the 6-month visa. But I'm going to be there for 6 months around that, and I didn't want to deal with like extending it. So I was like, well, it costs the same or just a little bit more, so I'll just get the year-long, but live and learn. Ended up costing me like $700 total with the physical, the x-ray, the travel. It was like 3 days of travel to get to Wellington. I could have just flown, but it would actually cost me more to fly from here to Wellington than it did. I took the bus to Picton, spent the night in a hostel, took the ferry to Wellington, which was cool. Was in Wellington for less than 24 hours and then took the ferry back to Picton. And then the next day I took the bus back to Nelson. It was quite an ordeal. So live and learn. And in theory, all my tests came back yesterday. This is Saturday in New Zealand. Yesterday, and they're supposed to have been sent to immigration. So hopefully by Monday, I get a letter from an email from immigration telling me that everything's a go with my visa. A little stressful. Like if you fly anywhere, it's so easy. It's just like you step off a plane. If you have a U.S. passport or like a strong passport, you step off the plane. You know, you have to get like a visa. Like if you come to New Zealand, U.S. citizen, you have to apply for a visa ahead of time. But it's like it's very easy. It's online. It's very simple. Same thing with Australia. Very simple. You do it on a yacht, and it's like it's a whole nightmare of paperwork and sending emails and forms and crazy stuff. So, I mean, that's just part of it. That's like part of the reality. And I've started doing a lot of research into the Indonesia thing, and I have to get an agent for that because it looks like very confusing and a lot of like crooked officials and stuff. So part of the adventure tax of getting to see the world by boat. But that being said, all that stuff's done. But now I'm kind of stuck in Nelson waiting for weather. And as it is now, there's like no possible point of leaving until like the 5th or later. And again, you can only trust weather 3 days out, but right now the weather is looking real gnarly and unforgiving as the Tasman is. So now it's a waiting game, which is like a big part of seamanship. Being able to be patient and just wait and not rush. Like I know when Holly Martin from Wind Hippie Sailing, when she left New Zealand, like I tried to talk her out of leaving when she left. Her mom tried to talk her out of leaving when she left. Like all of us, and she was just like impatient and like went out and she got hammered. So like I'm not interested in that experience in the Tasman. So I'm gonna wait until it makes sense, and then I'm gonna go. Right now I'm in the visitors dock here at Nelson, but in the next 2 days I'm going to like leave the dock and just go be under anchor here at Nelson to save money. And then right before, like when I see a window come up, then I'm going to come back to the visitor slip for like 2 days, stow the dinghy, stow the anchor, and get the boat finally finished up and ready to go. What else? Maybe we jump back and think about everything I've seen in New Zealand. I have been here, like I said, over a year. Triteia has been here over a year. And I visited 70 anchorages while I was here. You can actually go to the tracker to see, because like YouTube is like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months out. So you can go to the tracker, which I just posted in the chat. And it'll show you everything I've done since I've been here, which is pretty fun to look at. I don't know when it was. It was like sometime in December. I sailed down from the North Island to the South Island. I sailed to New Plymouth, spent a night in New Plymouth, and then crossed Cook Strait, which kind of kicked my ass, and which is to be expected. And then I spent the holidays in Marlborough Sounds with Rhonda, who you'll see in the chat, and we'll talk more about Rhonda in a bit. But so yeah, that's what I've been doing since getting back to Greenland. Basically, it's like I got back from Greenland. I did a bunch of stuff in Whangarei, and then I sailed to Great Barrier Island Had a fantastic visit at Great Barrier Island. It was like there was almost no one there, and it was incredible. And then I sailed to down through the Hauraki to Waiheke and kicked it around there. And then I ended up sailing north around the Cape to come down the west coast, which was much safer than sailing down the east coast. And also during that time, I hauled out in Maharangi at Quayside Boatyard, which Ari and his brother Aaron own that. Fantastic dudes, amazing boatyard, really great experience. I just edited that episode the other night. It's a cool episode coming out in the next few months. So yeah, it's been a wild ride since I got back from Greenland and Iceland and the States. And yeah, now it's just like waiting and pushing across the Tasman. Now, this is easily going to be my most challenging passage that I've done to date, other than the Hawaii situation, which was challenging for other reasons. But as far as like a body of water goes, it's going to be extremely challenging. Sarah's texting me. I just got to see, make sure there's not something happening here. So yeah, Tasman is going to be very, very challenging. My plan is to look for a high pressure system that's coming low. Like perfect case scenario, I'll find a higher pressure system that's sitting pretty low, and I ride the top of it. So I want to keep between like 38 degrees latitude and basically like 42 is like the ideal zone, kind of sticking closer to 40, to try to kind of just sail straight across the Tasman. And then when I close the coast of Tasmania within, I don't know, 150 to 200 miles, then I'll try to get my southing, hopefully with the northerly, which is pretty common, and then run down the coast of Tasmania to Hobart. That's the dream scenario for the passage. What I expect is like to find a high, I'll have like decent or light winds for the first 4 days out. I'll be becalmed for 2 days, which I'm actually bringing enough fuel to motor through the calms for this passage, which I've never done before, but the Tasman is a different beast. And then I'll get to the wind on the other side of the high. And then I expect within 24 hours, I'll have headwinds from like a ridge that's, like a low pressure system, Southern Ocean. And I'll probably heave to for 24 to 36 hours. And then hopefully after that, it'll be either calms or there'll be a northerly that I can run down the coast with. I'm going to bring enough fuel to be able to motor for like 70 hours if need be. So that's what all the patterns, all my research, I've been watching the weather for like 6 months. All the pilot charts tell me that, and like every old salt that I've spoken to here who's done it, they all say the same thing. They're like, that's a perfect plan. And, that's the best you can hope for. Now, if it turns out that there's no weather for me to be able to make my southing, or it's just too mean, or the seas are too gnarly, plan B is to sail for Eden, which is just above Bass Strait. And plan C is to sail for Sydney. If it's too gnarly, I'll just point north and sail to Sydney. It's a much better point of sail for most of the all the southerlies that happen. But the goal is like I'd much rather go to Eden than Sydney because I'm gonna go to Tasmania. So I'd rather not have to like work my way back down to Tasmania. So it's gonna be challenging. But I'm up for the challenge. And so is Triteia. It's only 1,200 nautical miles, which like in the grand scheme of all the miles I've done is like really not that much. So, but it is in the Tasman. So if it was 1,200 miles in the trade winds, I could do it in 10 days, but I'm guessing it'll take me 15 to 18 days to do this passage. So that's what's up with that. Yeah, kind of wild to finally be pushing off from New Zealand after so long. I do love it here. And I'll be back to see more many times over. And yeah, starting a new chapter. Once I get to Tasmania, I fell in love with a Kiwi girl in the 11th hour of being in New Zealand. Rhonda, we followed each other on Instagram, and we were talking back and forth about when I was coming down to the Sounds, and she had done van life for 9 months and had been down in the Sounds a bit in her van, and so she was telling me about some stuff about it. And then I invited her. I was like, "Oh, if you want to come sailing with me," and she kind of just like responded with like a thumbs up emoji. She's like, "Oh, I'll keep that in mind," or whatever. So it didn't get brought up again, and then we just continued like having a correspondence, and then eventually she was like, "Oh, were you serious about me coming down?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was serious." And so we worked it out over the holiday because I was going to be in the Sounds for the entire Christmas holiday anyway. And so yeah, she flew down and came on board. We had never spoken on the phone. We'd never had a video chat, nothing like that. And yeah, it was just like we hit it off instantly. And we had an incredible 16 days in the Sounds. And Rhonda's going to be coming on board full time in Tasmania. So this crossing is like a final chapter for my solo ocean sailing, which I'm not sad to see that chapter come to a close. I will have done the entire Pacific alone, which I'm pretty proud of. Pretty impressive resume of solo passages on a small boat. And I'm looking forward to starting a new chapter with seeing beautiful places with someone I love. So I'm excited about that. And I'll put her. She started an Instagram account that I'm putting in the chat right now, so you can go peekaboo at her. She shared all the stuff from our Marble Sounds, and there'll be a whole. We filmed the whole time we were in the Sounds, so at the end of March is when those episodes kind of start airing. And yeah, so you guys will get to meet Rhonda and finally get to see someone prettier than me on this channel. It's been a while. Let's check in on the chat, see what's happening. There's no way I can go back, so if you guys asked me questions a while ago, I apologize. Does anyone have any questions about my Tasman crossing or anything like that? Let me see here. Metal, is that you that just says May? I know Metal said she was going to tune in and listen while she was driving to her mom's, which made me like very have FOMO because like her mom makes the best shakshuka in the world. So I wish I was eating shakshuka at Metal's mom's house. Someone said, "Do I have a favorite anchorage in New Zealand?" Yeah, actually, I think my favorite anchorage was the very last anchorage that we visited, which was this little bitty cove in Mill Arm of Grieville Harbor on D'Urville Island in Marble Sounds. That's a lot of names. But we tucked into this really tight little cove, and then we shore tied, and we were within like 10 meters of the rocks at low tide, which was wild. But we held perfectly in the middle. You could jump out. The water was actually a nice temperature, which is rare in New Zealand. And we were swimming around, go ashore. Stunningly beautiful. That was probably my favorite anchorage, I would think. Chance Bay in Flores Sound was also really amazing. And Fungamumu is up there with some of my favorites. Oh, that is Metal. Hello, Metal. What else? What else? Someone's asking if I figured out what the red paint was on the Pacific crossing. Yeah, I've been saying that since I found the red paint. I'm sure it was a container. That's the thing that makes the most sense. Someone said, "So with your mission, there's no way you don't sell to Tasmania." No, I have every intention on spending the rest of cyclone season in Tasmania. And especially we're gonna go to Hobart. When I get to Hobart, Rhonda's gonna fly over, and then we're gonna explore Hobart a little bit, and then we're gonna head straight to Port Davy. Um, a Tassie sailor sent me all of her lifelong like pins of favorite anchorages and fishing spots in Port Davy. So we're gonna go spend a lot of time in Port Davy. Um, someone just mentioned about actually the video that someone mentioned this Tasman crossing on a Shannon 38. That's Dennis and Barb's boat. Allison and James is it's their YouTube channel. Fantastic film, beautifully shot. Says, do I have any specific worries that I have? Well, it's the Tasman Sea, so it's like one of the most dangerous bodies of water that I'll cross until we get to Cape Horn. So yeah, I have a lot of concerns. But mostly it's a matter of like I'm transiting the Tasman at the perfect time of year to transit such an ocean. So that's kind of all you can hope for, right? Is like you do it in the right time of year and you know what you're up against and you go slow and you have bailout options. So if I have to run north, then I run north, but it's in the roaring 40s. It's open to the Southern Ocean. Um, and it's a deadly, deadly serious body of water. Mint Nutella, which is like one of the funniest handles I've seen, is asking if I will sail to Indonesia. Yes. So in August, end of August, we'll be sailing to Indonesia from Darwin and working our way up through to Malaysia and Thailand. We'll be in Thailand this time next year. What else? TJ said, when you set out from LA, have any of your plans changed or are you still on schedule? I mean, with sailing, everything changes day to day. So when I left LA, I was originally going to sail to Hawaii and then sail to the Aleutians, do the Aleutians, Alaska, and then down to Mexico and work my way down to Chile. So everything's changed entirely. When I got to Hawaii, after all of that ordeal, then I decided to go to the South Pacific. So yeah, it changed 180 degrees. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot. I posted on my Instagram the other day the route currently the route I think that we will sail around the world. If you guys want to peekaboo at that, that's the thing. It's the first time I've ever publicly shared it. And again, I even says in this post that the route could change at any moment. Like originally, I was going to be in New Zealand 4 months, and I ended up being here over a year. So with sailing, you got to be flexible. I'm not on any schedule. Like we can sail wherever we want, as long as we want, as long as we can eke out a living through YouTube and my writing. That's kind of all that really determines what is possible. Someone said, any plan for a meetup in Hobart? Yes, there is a plan. I'm going to try to do a meetup in Hobart for sure. I was just emailing with one of the port officer for the Ocean Cruising Club that's there. So he would probably have a better idea as to where that would be possible. But I would love to have a meetup in Hobart, and I want to do a meetup in Sydney as well. What? You guys got any questions? Says if you were to park a boat in one part of New Zealand as a liveaboard, where would you choose? It's hard to guess. I mean, I would think I really enjoyed Whangarei Town Basin a lot. There's a lot of access. The only problem with Town Basin is that it's very far from sailing. So if you want to like live aboard and pop out for adventures, then Town Basin is not for you because it's like huge trek to get out of there. But as far as like if you're holing up for a while, like especially over winter or something, Town Basin is fantastic. Thank you, Faye, for the sweet comment. Yes, I will be. Will we be sailing up the East Coast? I posted the link a minute ago to my Instagram account that shows the route that we're taking. Be sailing up the East Coast all the way to Darwin, and then sailing from Darwin to Indo. Somebody's asking if I have any plans for the U.S. East Coast meetups. I just had a U.S. East Coast meetup in Annapolis with Andy Shell, 59 North, like last year, and I don't, I don't see myself being back in the U.S. for many, many years. No, yeah, Triteia was in perfect shape when I got back from Greenland. No surprises whatsoever. Let me think. I did a bunch of boat projects to get ready. I did some new storm boards, like ocean passage boards, like 10 mil thick Lexan that's really tight fitting. So like my old companionway slats were kind of loose, and when a wave would break on it, the water would shoot in like a fire hose. So I cut these really thick, nice Lexan, so I have a better vision outside, and they're really much more watertight. I had reinforced frames made for my solar panels. Um, those things are super beefy and amazing. And I painted the cockpit. I did all my bright work. I have to make pot holders still to hold my pots in place. And yeah, I think that's it. The boat's pretty much ready to go. Um, Someone's asking, how does the tracker work? I'm not sure how to answer that without being a smartass. I guess I could say it's attached to my Iridium Go. If maybe that's what you're asking. It's attached to my Iridium Go. So anywhere the Iridium Go goes, that's what the tracker is linked to. Someone asked if I installed Starlink. Yes, I installed Starlink, and yes, I will be shutting it off for my ocean crossing because I don't think that ocean sailing should have internet because it removes one of the most important parts of ocean sailing, which is solitude. What else? Let me see. Someone just asked if I ever planning on getting a large boat, or is this one large enough for you? I have no plans to upgrade my boat. Triteia is a perfect boat. Someone said, "What's it like to live on a boat?" Well, you have to be very comfortable being uncomfortable. It's like living in a clubhouse that could sink at any moment. But I find it to be like the greatest. Well, it's been the greatest experience of my life. That's for sure. Any more questions? Let's see. Let's see if I have any other links I was going to share with y'all. I don't think so. What else? You guys have any questions about New Zealand or what I've been up to here since I'm saying goodbye? Someone asked if I'm going to the Philippines. No, I'm not going to the Philippines. I would not take my yacht to the Philippines because there's too many bandits there currently. Looks very beautiful. I would love to fly there someday and go diving and stuff, but it is very dangerous for private yachts at the moment. Someone asked if I ever found a kiwi. Yeah, I saw 4 kiwis on Limestone Island. I've seen more kiwis than most of the kiwis. Someone said they didn't realize crime at sea still. Yeah, the website Noon Site is like one of the most fantastic things for like planning cruising and all that stuff. And for each country, they have like security warnings or like up to date security info about the condition, what's happening there. Cruisers will report in if they've been boarded and robbed. Um, so sometimes you'll go to a place to where you would think that it was like really dangerous, and you'll find that there's like no crime reported, or it's like a very low crime place. And then there's other places where you wouldn't think about it, and then you'll see all of these things, firsthand accounts of cruisers who have been robbed. And the Philippines right now is one of the worst places, where it's like there's a lot of yachts that are being boarded at gunpoint and robbed. And yeah, no bueno. Somebody said they watched the iceberg video today, the one that followed us around a while. Yeah, it was wild. It's like I was like captain of the ice watches when we were at anchor, so we had the crew like sitting on deck taking their regular watches, keeping an eye out for growlers, and then they would wake me up if there were any growlers and icebergs getting too close to us, and I would go out in the dinghy and push them off. Yeah, it was crazy. Um, I'm glad people are. Someone said that Falcon sagas are great. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying those. That cruising Greenland was like one of my favorite episodes I've done, but it was also one of the most remarkable experiences of my life. So, and it doesn't have nearly as many views as some of the other ones, but man, that video it's bonkers. Great. I can't wait to someday take Triteia and spend a full season in Greenland. So cool. Someone asked, "How's my engine running?" It's running fantastic, doing great, which is good because like when we were in the Sounds, there's like no wind. Well, there's either zero wind in the Sounds or there's like 50 knots of wind in the Sounds, and it's always on the nose, no matter what. You can't sail in the Marlborough Sounds. So when we were in the Sounds, we motored the whole time. I don't know what the total mileage I did was, but Rhonda came on board at Waikawa, and we did 200 nautical miles cruising through Queen Charlotte, Pelorus, up to Derville, and then down to Nelson. Thank you, Junk Rig Sailor. Really appreciate it. After plenty of miles, what's my take on hydrovane stealth steering? Hydrovane self steering. There is no greater piece of equipment that exists for a yacht than a hydrovane. None exists. It's the greatest thing ever. I mean, I sailed over 6,000 miles from Hawaii, never touched the helm unless it was dead calm and I was like trying to scull my way into the swales or something. Oh, that's something that happened. Speaking of the hydrovane, this is a perfect segue. So, when this is a wild episode that's coming out in my Sounds Adventures that are upcoming on YouTube. I sailed from Pelorus Sound. I left Pelorus Sound and rounded Cape Jackson into Queen Charlotte Sound. Now, the weather was forecasted in Cook Strait to be 13 knots. So I was like, cool, no problem. Awesome. And favorable winds. Cool, no problem. So I leave. I'm going. Winds are, get up to 13. I'm like, nice. I kill the engine. I'm just sailing. Beautiful day. Winds increase. Winds increase. Oh, okay. Wow, it's like 17 knots. Okay, no big deal. Coming up, coming up, coming up. I get to Cape Jackson, and I apologize, I don't know the meters off the top of my head, but it goes from like 300 feet of depth to 17 feet of depth at Cape Jackson, and the waves just stand up. Very, very scary. Navionics was trying to get me to cut through like this really shallow bit. I went through like 70 feet of water, which was the deepest without going all the way out. And I didn't want to go further out because the winds were like really howling at this point. They were probably blowing 25 knots when I rounded Cape Jackson. And I get around Cape Jackson, standing waves, like full on, very intense. I was hand steering, and I didn't have the hydrovane even hooked up because I thought I was going to be motoring with 13 knots of wind. I just was using my tiller pilot. So the hydrovane rudder wasn't even on because when the hydrovane rudder's on, it creates wake. It creates like a prop walk with the engine so that with the auto tiller, it'll do this like wacky thing. It'll overwork the auto tiller. So I didn't even have I didn't have the rudder on the hydrovane. We get around Cape Jackson. Winds are like getting serious at this point. I'm reefed down and everything. 2 reefs in the main, and I don't know, less than 100% head sail out. I get around that corner, the downslopes around into Queen Charlotte, around Cape Jackson. I was seeing 40 to 45 knots regular. There was like, I was close to shore and there was massive fetch. I've never in my life seen big fetch when you're like, the shore was like a mile away and there was a huge fetch. I couldn't even understand how it was possible. Like, if someone had told me they had seen that, I would have told them they were full of shit. It was crazy. And I'm hand steering, I get rounded up. I'm trying to steer the boat off in this, like, it was like a 45 knot gust. The tiller breaks. It was actually the tiller head. The bronze tiller head broke, which made the tiller split. So suddenly I'm sailing towards the shore in 40 knots of wind with no tiller. So like I jump down and I grab the tiller head and I turn it and I turn the boat out to sail away from land towards Cook Strait, sailing off into Cook Strait. And I tried to like see if I could just like jury rig something really quick. There was no quick solution. So I kind of like just like paid everything out and went over the back with the hydrovane rudder, got it in, and it went on easier than I thought. I thought it was going to be a nightmare. I filmed the whole thing. Thought it was going to be a nightmare. I got that thing on and got that thing running, boom, like that. Suddenly, no problem. No tiller, no problem. Hydrovane. And the hydrovane steered me in. I think at some point I like brought the sail as we were closing in. It was like a mark that we were coming up to, a cardinal mark, and the seas were so rough I couldn't see it. And it was on a rock, but I could not for the life of me see this cardinal mark. I was looking everywhere. And finally I saw it in the whitewash. I was like, wow, it was really hard to see. So I like dropped sail, had the engine on and was motoring, but still just using the wind vane as all my steering. And I got into Ship Cove. I think it was Ship Cove. Yeah, it was Ship Cove where Captain Cook used to lay up his boat. And there was a boat on the mooring. And so I had to pull up, and it's like I joined this like Polaris boating club. So you get like a burgee. This is like a map of all the you get access to like 100 moorings in the sounds, and you put your burgee up and then you can go pick up moorings all over the sound. So there was a boat on the mooring ball because the sounds are like 70 to 90 feet deep. So you want to use these moorings because it's very deep. So I had to like raft up to this boat. And at first they didn't want to. I was like, dude, I have no tiller. Like, I'm going to raft up to you. Like, give me a break. And so he's like, okay. But I had to raft up to a dude using no one on the gear shift with me just like hand steering back at the hydrovane. And it went perfect. Perfect. But man, so as a testament to the hydrovane, 1000% hydrovane all the way. What else? Let's see here. Joel asked, any tips for putting your passengers at ease and helping them enjoy when they join sailing for the first time? The most important thing is don't take them out on a shitty day. Take them out when it's light airs, not a bad swell, and if you see them yawning a bunch, they're going to get sick. That is like the pregame for vomiting is yawning. So keep an eye on people. Anytime I see people yawning, I'm like, oh, here we go. What else? Someone's saying something about all these sailing YouTubers swear electric upgrades, fancy power, everything lithium. It's funny that you're talking to me about that because I have all lithium with an electric galley, and I love it. um, Someone asked if I'm afraid of orcas everywhere or just Spain. I This subject makes me like red hot. There are tens of thousands of orcas sailing or swimming around boats everywhere in the world. There's one pod that someone did something bad to that are retaliating against boats. No, orcas are not a problem. There's one pod that is a problem. um, Someone just said they should cut their hair before going sailing because you get caught in the rigging. That is like such a ridiculous statement. I can't even go there. Um, what else? Someone asked, "Have I ever had to personally preload on strong seasickness medicine, Dramamine, for the first few days long passage?" For sure, I still do. I always keep Dramamine on board. Like when I first started sailing, I got sick every time I got on boats. But now, basically, it's like I say, if I feel like my eyeballs aren't calibrated, if my eyes feel weird, I'll take like half a pill or a full pill. And I haven't thrown up in years and years and years, but I rarely ever get seasick at this point. But Dramamine is like definitely what I'll just take a pill. It also like helps you sleep when you're off watch. So what else? You guys have any more questions? Sarah, are there any questions that I should address that I missed in the rapid feed of the chat when I was rambling about my tiller? Nope. Let me see here. I'll try to scroll back. Someone asked me if I ever get scared sailing alone. No, I've never been scared sailing alone. Nikki asked, "Where am I going next?" I'm sailing to Tasmania as soon as weather will allow. Bay of Islands, is it as good as its reputation? I think for the Northland that the Bay of Islands are unmatched. Um, the Hodaki has some beautiful stuff, and I didn't get to the Mercury, so I can't speak to those or the Peninsula. But as far as like well protected anchorages and like short distance sailing, Bay of Islands is fantastic. So is Whangaroa. Just remarkable. Really amazing. Rhonda, did you see this comment asking if you had sailed before meeting you? Yes, she has sailed. She's a Kiwi. But yeah, maybe Rhonda will pop in and to speak of her background on that. We're going to be doing a live together once I get to Tasmania. And anyone who just tuned in or tuned in since I talked about it earlier, I fell in love with a Kiwi girl named Rhonda here at the very end of my time here, and she's going to be meeting me in Tasmania and moving on board full time. So you'll see a lot more of her once I get to Oz. Somebody asked if I've seen many Ericssons out on our travels. I haven't seen a ton of Ericssons out. But also, the only small boats I saw was like me and Holly. I guess those are the only ones. Not not that old Sea Dog dude. I don't know that guy, but Barry from Southern California on Sailing Mackay. I think we were the only small boats I saw, and we were all three Americans. I didn't see any small boats. Every other boat was huge, and I don't remember seeing any Ericssons. TJ asked if I recommend scuba certification for blue water sailors. I think scuba training is very good to have, but like since I've been alone for 2.5 years, I haven't been scuba diving other than in emergencies in all that time because I didn't have someone I trusted to go with me. I thought about going diving in Fiji, but I went and looked at the tour operation and I was like spooked. I was so used to diving with my little brother Colby and like my crew back in Southern California, people that I trusted, that it's so easy to die underwater that I don't know that it's totally necessary to have scuba certification, but it is good to be trained. Training is always good. I think you might even do better off getting trained as a free diver, which is also very dangerous. Someone says, "Do I talk to myself out loud full time when sailing alone?" Well, some people could say I do because I film everything I do, so I guess there's that. Otherwise, I don't. I don't tend to talk to myself out loud, uh, or to the boat that I know of. Um, Someone says, "Do you give any credence to capsize screening formula and capsize ratio numbers?" You just don't sail in the wrong place at the wrong time. You don't have to worry about capsize ratios. That's what I have to say about that. Someone said, "What do I think of Kiwi-made yachts?" I've seen a lot of really cool Kiwi-made boats. A lot of them had Cowdy. Beautiful boats. P-38s are really cool boats. There's some gorgeous, very serious yachts down here, and yeah, there's a lot of cool Kiwi boats. What else? Thank you, Rhonda, for answering that. What else? Someone says, "Where do you anticipate being in 3 to 6 months?" Well, in Australia, cruising up the East Coast. Someone asked how long to Tasmania. I think it'll take 15 to 18 days if I'm lucky. It's only 1,200 miles, but it's 1,200 very serious miles. Someone says, "Do I ever meet other YouTube sailors?" I'm friends with Holly. She's been on my channel a number of times, and we did a live together. Colin from Parlay Revival messaged me the other day, but we haven't met up because he's up in Auckland. I don't know if I've met any other YouTube people. Someone says, "Besides Hydrovane, what is the best upgrade for single-handed sailing?" A hard Dodger. For sure. Best and worst place you visited in New Zealand? Best place. Okay, best place I visited or best place I Anchorage? Because I mentioned the Anchorage earlier, but best place I visited. I like this question. I like this question. I don't know if it was like, if I would say it's the best place I visited, but it felt very special to get to spend a night at Spirits Bay near Cape Reinga. because it's so rare to get that. And I spent one night at Tom Bowling Green and one night at Spirits Bay, so 2 nights at the top of the Northland, and I was just there by myself. That felt really, really special, and it was like me saying goodbye to the Northland. That sticks out to me. Um, I liked going to Ponui to see the Ponui donkeys. That was, like, really cool. It's probably funny to, like, Kiwis, you're like, "Really, Ponui?" Um, what else? I really enjoyed going up the Maharangi River to Quayside Boatyard because it was, like, so narrow and so shallow, and I'd never done anything like that before. It was very nerve-wracking, but it went perfect. So that was a fun sort of experience. Um, Sailing in the Sounds with Rhonda over the holidays was out of this world and worlds apart different than anything on the Northland. So that was like really, really special. Worst experiences in New Zealand have to be driving into Auckland Harbor. Every time I drove into Auckland Harbor, it was like, for some reason, it was the tide was against me and there was wind on the nose. And there were points like there's like this one wharf, like right before you get to where the Navy is, where I would get down to like 1 knot of speed and less than 1 knot. Like I would be sitting still and there was nothing, and there's like just chaos all around me, just mayhem. And that was so terrible. Every time I went into Auckland Harbor, it was terrible. That being said, I enjoyed staying at Little Shoal because I liked the view of the bridge. It was like there was a lot of wake traffic in the daytime, but I really enjoyed seeing the harbor bridge, and I would like zip across in the dinghy, which was almost like playing Frogger, to West Haven and go into the city and stuff. I like Auckland as a city, but Auckland Harbor driving up there, terrible. Um, Other than that, I was pretty good about putting myself in good situations when it comes to this challenging weather that I experienced here. Um, yeah. Yeah, I think Auckland Harbor is probably the worst place that I had to visit in New Zealand. Liz asked if Rhonda has been to Tasmania before. She has not been to Tasmania. The other fun thing, Rhonda has only ever been to Australia. She's never been anywhere else in the world, so it's going to be really fun to kind of take her to extremely foreign places. What is my true opinion of in-mast furling? I would never in a billion years own a boat with in-mast furling. In a billion years. I've delivered those damn things. They always jam and they never jam in good weather. Terrible idea. Not to mention it puts all the weight vertical. Like at least in boom, I still think it's a bad idea, but at least the weight is down. Or you could drop the sail if it jams up. That thing, well, those things, if they jam with the sail out, you're hosed. Those things, I don't know whoever came up with that idea. It's absurd. Someone says, how does Kiwi pricing for yacht parts and equipment compare to the US? New Zealand is brutally expensive. I mean, I have the benefit of like the US dollar is stronger than the Kiwi dollar, but man, it is like very brutally expensive here. Not good. Someone said, why will this be my most challenging passage to date? Because it's the Tasman Sea. It's exposed to the Southern Ocean, has very, very big ocean and very unpredictable mean weather. And all you got to do is search disaster Tasman Sea in YouTube, and you'll find a variety of documentaries about all the mariners who have died. Someone said, do I have a rope cutter on my prop? No, I have a full kill boat. I don't need a rope cutter. Someone asked thoughts on Dyneema rigging. I think Dyneema is a great like if I had a coastal cruiser, I would rig it with synthetic rigging with all Dyneema. But it stretches so much in the first year that you have to constantly be dealing with it. That's why I did mine all in stainless when I did my new rig in LA. I didn't go at Dyneema because I was like one less thing. I was like, I don't want to have to think of. You have to think about enough ocean sailing to have to worry about the rig getting slack constantly for the first year. But I think, Dyneema is the strongest material on Earth. but it does stretch. It creeps for that first year. I met some really cool Tassie sailors who had a really interesting boat at Deepwater Cove, and they had all synthetic rigging. And he was a rigger. He told me the same thing. So I think Dynamia is pretty cool. It's nice. It drops the weight. I like the feel of it. But yeah, the biggest concern is that it creeps for that first year. What else? Any questions? Questions? Someone said they live in Sydney. Thanks for, yeah, maybe we can meet up. I'm going to try to do a meetup when we get to Sydney. I'm actually going to be going into the Outback with this like trail guide guy, Sid Ventures, on April 27th. I'll be going to the Outback with him for a week, which will be very exciting. I'll be filming that whole thing. And then he's going to come sailing with us probably around the Whit Sundays or something, which will be cool. Someone asked, what bottom paint do I use? On this last bottom job I did, I used International, I think Ultra Plus 2 or something. I don't know. The crew of Womble gave me like 5 gallons of it for free, that because they over ordered too much, and so they gave me up like $600 worth of bottom paint. So that's what I used on this last one. Seemed good. What else? Someone said, what would I like to have on my boat that I don't have currently? Probably a water maker, which looks like we're gonna have a water maker this summer. I've been consulting for these inventors at MIT for like 2 years. Since I was in Hawaii is when I started kind of consulting from a cruising standpoint with those guys. And I just heard from them the other day that field testing this newly invented water maker looks like it's going to happen this summer or fall, North American summer or fall. So hopefully when we're in Australia, we'll be able to get a water maker. That would be the only thing that would be really nice. I've never had any issues. The only time I got low on water was in the Tuamotus, and some other Americans that had a water maker gave me enough to spend another week. So I've never really, you can find water generally, but it would be nice to not have to worry about it at all. Someone asked, will Triteia make the Greenland Iceland passes in the future? I will, it's a funny thing. I'm glad you asked that question, actually. I thought that going with Andy and 59 North on their big giant boat, I'm like, cool, I'll get that out of my system and I won't have to go to Greenland on Triteia. But it turned out to be the exact opposite. Like, I have to spend a full season in Greenland on Triteia and like work my way up the West Coast. Like, I need to like slow dance with a narwhal. I need to I need to see all the nooks and crannies. I don't think I can't see myself at this point. I don't think I would sail to Iceland because there's only a handful of good anchorages in Iceland. So, and I've been to Iceland 6 times now. So I think if I sail to Greenland, I would probably want to sail back to North America for winter, or I would sail direct from there to Ireland. Um, there's just not enough from a yachting perspective in Iceland for me to really justify going there. And I've spent so much. I love Iceland. I would go back in a heartbeat by flying, but I don't see putting myself there. But who knows? I mean, it is a short hop from Greenland, but someone's asked, what would be a safer crossing New Zealand to Australia? Well, most smart people go from the North Island, or even from down here, they sail to Sydney. Like, that's a much easier point of sail. But yeah, going around the top of the North Island and sailing either to Brisbane or to Sydney, that's a much, much easier way to sail. Not during cyclone season, but I'm going like in the roaring 40s, and I'm going a way that's not common. That being said, I've spoken to a number of old Kiwis who they're like, "Oh yeah, I've done that." Like, for Kiwis though, but Kiwis are it's like Kiwis they're sailing 40 knots of wind and like be like, maybe I should reef. Like they're just built different down here when it comes, but it's because they're exposed to such extreme weather their whole lives. Someone said, any regrets choosing this kind of life? Hell no. Hell no. Someone said, do you have any trouble going to ports from country to country or generally one passport to rule them all? Noonside explains the whole process for every country, every clearing. Nowadays, you make contact beforehand. You fill out papers ahead of time. You send it to them. You know what the situation is. And it's very much like kind of like old world bureaucracy when it comes to bringing a private yacht into any country. You have to fill out 12 pieces of paper and hand it to them, and it's not very up to date from a logical standpoint, but it's a small price to pay. Someone said, what's my favorite meal during passage? Probably like Japanese curry and rice. It's very easy to make and it's very hearty, and I love it. What else? Someone said the strangest thing I've ever seen on the water. I was on a delivery. What year was it? 2016, maybe, in the Bermuda Triangle. Actually, this was just outside of the Bermuda Triangle because it was like a day's sail from Bermuda heading to North Carolina. We came across a half-sunk, dismasted Maxi Mini race boat that the top looked like the winches and everything looked brand new. There was like, but you could see barnacle growth on the bottom. And there was a pile of like tethers and stuff on the deck. Mast was gone, and it was like just bobbing there. And we called it into radio. We circled it, called out. No one answered. We called it into Radio Bermuda, and like they didn't know anything about it. So that was like one of the spookiest things I've seen. I don't know if that sailor died. And I looked online for years and years after. Every once in a while I would check. I never found anything about what happened to that sailor. Thank you, Robin, for the sweet comment. What else? How many people we got on here? 167. That's nice. I've been going an hour. Okay. I usually lose my voice around the 2-hour mark. Someone said, thanks for coming to New Zealand. New Zealand's fantastic. Like Mecca for cruisers. There's like, I've sailed all over the world, and this is like probably the best cruising ground. The weather is like very, very challenging. But other than that, as a cruising ground goes, New Zealand is unmatched for sure. Someone said, where will I do a thorough haul out and rigging inspection? I do my rigging inspection myself. I built my entire rig. So I already inspected the rig, and I hauled out and did the bottom in Maharangi like a couple months ago. Someone said, how do I handle seasickness? I almost never get seasick nowadays, but when I do, I take Dramamine. What else? You have any more questions for me? Okay, here's a question. Do I have a shower? Yes, I do have a shower. I have a hot water tank and everything. So if the engine's running, it makes hot water. But when I'm on passage, I allow myself like to wash my hair and to like do like a wash down in the shower on like Sundays. For no other reason than it's just like the end of the week or the beginning of the week, depending on the calendar you believe in. And so yeah, like once a week, I'll wash my hair and do like a wash down using as little water as possible. Um, Otherwise, anytime it rains in the tropics, I'll go out and I'll wash down. I never try to wash my hair in a downpour because it's always the same thing. You get your hair sudsed up and the rain stops and then you're hosed. So I always wash my hair down below. But yeah, anytime there's a rainstorm, I'll go wash in the cockpit. Someone asked, glass or plexiglass for windows in a hard Dodger or pilot house? Plexiglass, Lexan, bulletproof glass. That's the way to go. Someone said, any tips for a new sailor? I did an entire mini series about that kind of covers a lot of stuff for new sailors and people that want to go cruising. Thank you, Carl, for the nice comment. Someone asked, do I have a fridge? Yes, I have a fridge that I built myself in Los Angeles, and I installed a cold plate system from Isotherm, and it works very well. Someone said, what is your most comfortable point of sail with sail configuration? I mean, probably like a beam reach is really nice. More depends on like the wind, how much wind or there is or isn't. Someone said, what water heater do I use? I don't remember. It might have been Johnson. I don't recall. It was a long time ago when I installed it. What else? Oh, someone said my question is about your cabin heater. Um, I have a forced air diesel heater that I installed in Whangarei. I actually bought it in LA and because when I was going to Alaska, I never installed it, and I installed it in Whangarei. It's a planner. It's the Russian version. It wasn't cheap. It was like $1,200 when I bought it or whatever. It's a nice diesel heater. I've only had to use it a couple times here in New Zealand, and then we'll probably use it in Tasmania, I would imagine. But then we won't need it for a very, very long time. Josh Wright said he followed my directions for getting the Alawai and getting to a slip worked perfectly. That's what I like to hear. The Alawai is well, the harbor masters there are very challenging to deal with, but I had a very nice time staying at the Alawai. Someone said, do I know much about celestial navigation? Yes, I know celestial navigation. I have a beautiful bronze sextant, and I keep up to date almanacs in case I need it. I did like tons of when I sailed from Puerto Rico to Bermuda to North Carolina in 2016 on a delivery. I did noon sights every day. Someone said, I recall India isn't on the itinerary. Is that a weather thing? Or India makes it very, very, very difficult for boats to visit. I looked into it because I want to kind of go everywhere I can, but I would like to go to Sri Lanka, but it's so politically unstable. I don't think that at the current situation with Sri Lanka, it's not the risk isn't worth the reward of going to Sri Lanka. But India, I would have gone to India, but all the research I've done and the people I've talked to have said that India is an absolute nightmare when it comes to bureaucracy, and there's like almost no facilities, and it's really difficult. They make it difficult for you to cruise in India, so that's the reason I'm not going to India. Paul Brown, very happy to hear you bought your first yacht at 70. Got plenty of time to still sail. That's for sure. Ginny on a 34-foot Catalina in Texas. First of all, I'm from Hobbs, New Mexico, so you're from my neck of the woods. Um, Asking about first ocean sailing experience. I think it is like critical that anyone that's interested in getting into like ocean sailing go ocean sailing with a skilled captain on a reliable boat well ahead of ever shopping for a blue water boat. Now, not everyone will do that, but I think it's crucial. To answer your question, first and foremost, I would say look and see if you can get on as crew on a boat that needs crew from like Panama to the Marquesas. That's a long passage, especially one if someone is willing, if they're stopping in Galapagos and they're going to pay for it because it's $3,000 to bring a yacht to the Galapagos. So if you can get on, if you can get to the Galapagos and somebody else is like dime, that would be the best case scenario. But I would say look for a boat that's looking for crew through the South Pacific, um, because that's trade wind sailing, which is very comfortable. It won't, it's like beautiful, reliable sailing in gorgeous places, and it won't, versus like sailing across the Bay of Biscay at the wrong time of year. That's going to give you a different perspective on ocean sailing to where it might turn you off to it for no reason because you went in the wrong place at the wrong time with a captain who didn't know what they were doing. To where if you go with someone who's like already an ocean sailor, there's like, I guess I'm not on Facebook, but there's Facebook groups that are looking for crew. There's crew finders, there's crew seekers, but I think the Facebook groups are the best place to find spots on boats. And a lot of them, it's like, you'll just come on, you may have to contribute towards provisions, but they don't pay you and you don't pay them. They're needing, and you'll be sitting watch like everybody else. But I find that's the best way to be on a reliable boat and like get some ocean sailing experience and find out if you even like it. You might not like it or you might love it. On that, that 59 North Passage, on this, the film hasn't come out yet. I think it comes out this Monday. The passage to Iceland was really rough the first like 3 days or something. And like, I think it was 5 of the 11 crew were like throwing up in buckets the whole time, bunk ridden. Some of them couldn't get out of their bunks to take their watches. Even Andy got really seasick. I was taking Andy's watches, and Andy never gets seasick. Um, and 2 of those dudes, when we got to Iceland after all of that stuff, I was like, okay, I asked everybody, like, okay, what do you think about ocean sailing now? And 2 of those dudes were like shopping for like, $200,000 blue water boats at the beginning. And they're both like, nah, I'm good. I like coastal sailing. I like lake sailing. I'm good. I'm happy with what I'm doing, it turns out. So it's good to like get out there and actually see what it's like and if it's right for you. For me, the first time I was like a day sail away from land and I was on watch by myself. There was like other crew members down below sleeping, but I like had the sunrise to myself and I knew I was like, over 24 hours from land. I was at the most peace I'd ever felt in my life. Like I'd never felt peace like that ever. And I knew I was like, this is for me. Like this is for me. So you may have that experience, or you may be like, this is terrible. Why does anyone do this? What else? Someone said, will you ever consider a motor yacht? Um, I would buy like a vintage trawler. Like if I lived in the Pacific Northwest, or even here, if I lived in New Zealand, I wouldn't mind owning like one of these vintage wooden launches that are really beautiful. Um, the person mentioned a catamaran. I would never own a catamaran. I have no interest in catamarans, but like a vintage trawler, like especially a place like the Pacific Northwest where there's not a ton of wind to actually do real sailing, and you want to be out of the rain on a beautiful boat with nice lines. Like I would own like a vintage trawler or a vintage launch made here in New Zealand. Someone said, "Do I ever get insurance for docking in New Zealand marinas?" You mentioned this in the past. Yes, I did. Finally found insurance. I think it's called Edward Phillips or Edward Williams or something like that. It's based in Spain. I got $10 million coverage that covers New Zealand in Australia. And then when we're finishing up in Australia, I'll like amend my policy to cover Indonesia and Malaysia and Thailand. But yeah, it's the only place I found that could cover it. I'm not going to name names, but I've heard that certain American sailors had to just Photoshop their insurance papers. But I got actual insurance because I was like, sure as hell, if I just Photoshop it, something's going to happen and I'm going to lose my boat. It wasn't that expensive either. I mean, the coverage is absurd. It's just third party, but I think it was like $1,000 or something, $1,000 US for the year, which isn't that bad. Um, Someone asked if I vacuum pack meals. No, I don't. No, not necessary. I mean, I'm like the longest patch I've ever done was 32 days, and when I reached Hawaii, I still had 2 weeks worth of food. Like it's not difficult to have canned food and instant, stuff. You run out of fresh stuff pretty quick. You run out of all the fun stuff to eat pretty quick. But I also eat for utility, so. Hi, Miss Callie. What else? How we doing over here? Someone back up in the thing asked, "Was your theory on protection from piracy, theft on board, non-lethal gun, etc." I did a whole thing on security risks, imagined dangers, and real dangers. There's a whole episode where I go into detail about my opinion on the whole thing. Rhonda just said the food game about to level up. That's true. She's a much better cook than I am, so. Okay, so Bob Partis said Edward William provides worldwide coverage for single-handed. That is who I used, and I sent them all my info, and they were real cool. They responded quickly. That's the only place I think I was denied insurance by 12 different places because my boat's too small. American flagged, like no companies will insure American flag boats, and it's too old, so nobody would insure me. I mean, I have insurance in the States, like I have like whatever, but they need like Mondo coverage, third party coverage here in New Zealand and Australia. Someone said, "What's my advice on health insurance?" I use a company called Dan, which is like Divers Assisted Network. They have like travel insurance, and it's cool. Cool thing about Dan is like if you have a diving accident, they even pay for like you to be flown to a chamber and stuff. Um, I can't remember. I think I pay like $350 US a year for their coverage. Pretty good coverage. The only place I've ever been asked to show that I had health insurance was in French Polynesia, but Rhonda just started looking into it for New Zealand. Rhonda, will you mention in the comments what what you found? Have you found something comparable that you're going to get to that plan I have? Carl asked if I ever use weather routing services. No, and I would never use weather routing services ever. I know a lot of people that do, but my perspective is I have weather route. First of all, I have enough experience. I know what my boat does. I know what I'm willing to put up with and not what willing to put up with. And if I like hired a weather router and they gave me bad advice, I would be furious. If I was in a very dangerous situation because somebody told me to do something that I shouldn't have done and I listened to them, I would be furious. Now, if I made a bad decision and put myself in a shitty situation and was like in a dangerous place and it was my own fault, I would just be annoyed. So I'd rather be annoyed than furious. I would rather make my own mistakes than take someone else's advice that I had to pay for. No, I don't use weather routers. So Rhonda just said pretty varied. She found one for about 450 Kiwi dollars, which is about the same price as what I paid for mine in if you do the conversion. What else? Um, Oh, Divers Alert Network. That's right. That's what it's called. I got my paper chart from Boat Books in Auckland for Tasmania, because I chart my position on a paper chart. So if all my business goes down, I'll still have the ability to like know where I'm at in the sea. So I got that for this passage. I'm pretty excited about. Someone said, do I recommend John Vigor's books for small sailboats? I think, yeah, like John Vigor's, like his 20 small sailboats to take you anywhere. That thing is kind of bulletproof. It's a really good jump off spot. And the first boat in there is an Alberg 30. Of course, it is listed alphabetically, but still. Someone says, what books do you like to read on passage? Well, I'm pretty like narrow focused, so it's usually books about the sea, but let me see. I have this. Oh, I read this book. I only read this book on passage. I'm always like most people, I'm always reading like 3 books at a time, but I only read this book while I'm on passage, and it's like as thick as War and Peace. Look at that thing. But this is like, basically it's like a history of like humans and their relations with the sea. Really, really cool book. But like, I'm only like that far in, you know what I mean? But I read this on passage. I just bought, where's the new book I bought? I just bought this book when I was in Wellington, which I started reading, and it was very interesting, really cool. And I'm reading, this passage will be those books, and then this book about Magellan. I also have like a PDF on the history of Australia. I tried to find a book on Flinders, Matthew Flinders. It's like, I know quite a bit about Flinders and bass. But I want to find there. I've seen books online, but I can't find any locally at bookstores. I really would like to get a book on Flinders. I'm sure I can find one when I get to Tasmania, but someone asked if I'll ever anchor up in Oahu again. I don't imagine I will ever bring Triteia back to Hawaii, ever. I did that. I'm done. I'll probably visit Hawaii by plane because I like Hawaii. I'd like to take Rhonda there, but I can't see myself ever sailing to Hawaii again. Man, Hawaii is in the middle of nowhere, and they do not like yachties there. The harbor masters don't. Someone told me the name of the book. Yeah, I know, that's the book I've been trying to find. You just can't find it locally. Someone said, did I get a new drone yet? I have not. I have my old drone, and I got a part to repair it. I just haven't repaired it, but yeah, I'm still doing drone shots, and we got some amazing drone shots in Marlborough Sounds. I gotta get a drink of water. Just a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh shit. I have the boat closed up, and it's like mega hot in here right now. But it's like, Nelson doesn't have like, I shouldn't say this on here. Damn it. Nelson doesn't have like security. Oh, I'm leaving the dock in like 2 days. Nelson doesn't have security gates, so like people have just been stopping by the boat unannounced, like regularly. So it's, I have my boards in so that no one would show up and interrupt the live stream. Rhonda's in Dunedin right now. She's gonna be stopping by the boat in a few days. I don't know, today is 27th. In like 4 days, she'll be here for a few days on her way back to the Northland to button up her life. Someone asked if I read Christian Williams books. No disrespect to you, but that dude annoys the hell out of me. I don't like his book at all, and I can't stand his YouTube videos. That's just real talk for me. What else? You guys have any more questions? We're at an hour and a half. We still got 169 people on though. I think I might have to pop this board open. Sarah, are you still on the stream? If you are, will you post my link to, or maybe I have it. Oh yeah, will you post the link to my workshop? I'm like dying of heat stroke in here. Someone said, "What are my thoughts on New Zealand sailors?" Well, I said just a minute ago they're like some of the baddest I ever met because they're not scared of anything. Hello from Pennsylvania. Well, I got a funny story about Pennsylvania. I grew up in Hobbs, New Mexico, which is like a little terrible little town in the Great Plains, and we lived on the south side, which is like, not the greatest side of town. And this family moved in across the street, kind of catty corner from us. And this little blonde kid came over named Wilson. He introduced himself. And he said, "Oh, we just moved here from Pennsylvania." And I looked at him. And I was very suspicious of him. And he left. And I kept staring out the window, looking for like a couple days. And Mom's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, that kid moved from where Dracula's from. I thought he meant Transylvania. Someone said, "How long do you plan on sailing the world?" I don't ever plan on stop sailing the world. I think I'll say what Lynn always said. Lynn and Larry always said, "We'll do it as long as it's fun." That's kind of the answer. There's no like when I finish this circumnavigation, we'll be in LA for like hurricane season, and then we'll head out again for either an east about or head back to South Pacific. But that'll be like roughly 2027. Someone's asking about if I've done a video. I still plan on doing a video about my history of my tattoos. I've been talking about that since Hawaii, I know, but I mean, I should. There's enough people have asked me about it, but I just have so much content anyway that I don't know. I mean, there might only be like 10 people that are interested in that. I don't know. Yeah, I might do it. I mean, I could easily do one on the history of tattooing, but it just seems so narcissistic to do one about my tattoos. But I guess, like, that's part of the thing, I guess. What else? Someone asked, what medical gear do I carry on board? I have a pretty extensive medical kit. My former in-laws were both surgeons, and they set me up with a pretty top-notch medical kit. The one thing I'd like to get is like penicillin or like antibiotics. I'd like to get that. I think that's good to have on board. Someone said, thoughts on tiller versus wheel. No boat under 30 feet should have a wheel ever. I mean, under 40 foot. And even 40 foot, like if I had, like if I won the lotto and had Cam Yachts build me like a 42-foot boat, I would have a tiller put on it. Tiller all the way. The wheels are ridiculous. I mean, on big boats, they make sense because the powers are so great. And if you get stuck hand steering, then it is like a safety concern. But no boat under 40 feet should ever have a wheel, ever. Someone's asking for a link to the tracker. Yeah, I got it right here. And I'll be getting back into the sort of like 2 or 3 times a day updating the tracker blog on the passage. What else? Josh Wright is asking me about sailing from Hawaii to French Polynesia. Josh, in the comment, will you tell me what your intended landfall is, and then I'll respond to that question. Someone said, "Nice to see me back on my boat." I've been back on my boat for like 6 months. Maybe it's not been. Yeah, I think it's been about that long. See, September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, 6 months. Durango, the whole YouTube thing is narcissistic. You're wrong about that. You're way off base. Good night, Carl. Yeah, some of y'all are in some places. It's hard for me to figure out how to do it time wise, like being on the other side of the world in the future versus like East Coast, West Coast. I don't know where most of my viewers like live at this point. Josh said, "Love to get the Marquesas." Yeah, and good luck with that. You might want to give up sailing if you try to make the Marquesas. I sailed to Rangiroa, and it was the first 8 days was the worst sailing of my entire life. To get my easting to get to Rangiroa was hell, and it would have been completely impossible for me to reach the Marquesas. Impossible. Not like I could have pushed through. Not possible. So yeah, no, I would say hell no. Tuamotus, I don't even know that I would do the Tuamotus that way again. I think if I had to do it over again, I would sail to Tahiti, clear in, and then wait for like a calm day and then drive to the Tuamotus from Tahiti. It's just brutal, brutal. What else? Someone asked how long I plan on cruising for. I answered this a second ago. I don't have any. I plan on cruising the rest of my life or until it's not fun anymore. Someone said, "Do you know of heard the best place to check into Hawaii is from Mexico?" I don't understand that question at all. I don't know what that means. To check in from Mexico? You mean to sail from Mexico to Hawaii? Sailing to Hawaii is very easy. It's like after the first couple days away from the California or Mexican coast, you get into the trades, and then it's just downwind sailing. It's very, very easy. Um, Someone said, "Curious how you access Wi-Fi to be able to post to YouTube." Well, for the last 2.5 years, I was like uploading everything via my phone. I would tether to my phone. Like from Tahiti, I had good internet in Tahiti at Papiete. I had uploaded a bunch of videos there, but then I didn't find reliable ground-based internet until I got to Apua. So everything I uploaded for all that time was on my phone, via my phone. Um, I installed Starlink when I got to the South Island because I need it for work desperately, and I was able to upload like 11 videos in like I edited like 11 videos in like 2 weeks or something, and got them all uploaded, which would have been impossible on my phone because it's so slow. Um, so someone asked if I keep up with Kimberly. Yeah, Kimberly Wood was actually in New Zealand. She works for Lindblad Nat Geo boats, and she was actually in New Zealand for like a month, but I didn't see her. She was like on the boat, and then she flew out straight to another boat, so we never even touched base. We were texting, but I didn't get to see her while she was here. Thoughts on sailing Seattle to Hawaii? Should be easy once you get away from that California current and like that, the California trades should be, I mean, it'll be a little chilly, but the good thing about sailing Seattle to Hawaii is like it just gets warmer and warmer, so it just gets better and better. Someone's asking about Jimmy Cornell's route books. Yes, I have them. I keep them on board. They are the Bible. every boat, every cruiser should have his books, all of his books, both of his big books and his pilot guide book. I don't care that it's $70. They're worth every penny. I've planned everything I've ever done. The first place I look for research is in those books. And yeah, the new ones are the best updated versions. Like that's not where you pinch pennies, is not with education. Sail P said I didn't from it. It was very hard for me to sail from Hawaii to the Tuamotus because I had to get so much easting to get to Rangiroa. It was the worst sailing in my life. Once you get to the Tuamotus, there's challenges, but it's fantastic. No, it's not difficult sailing in the Tuamotus, and I think everybody that goes to French Polynesia should definitely visit them because they're really amazing and wild. But getting to them from Hawaii is very difficult. That's what I was talking about. Oh, this sailing, it's the truth. Yeah, you I would say, I mean, I don't know what, if you're an American, I have no idea what your national flag is, but I didn't have to check into the Hawaii because I'm an American. So I just went to the harbor master in Oahu. But I think the main place most people clear into Hawaii is Hilo. Josh said he pounded for 3 days crossing from LA to Hawaii because of equipment issues. I had the first time I tried to sail to Hawaii, I had like hellish 3 days, but that was my own fault for leaving in like 30 knots of wind. But it broke what needed to get broken very early on that first attempt, which was my wind vane at the time broke. Josh just said there's no full-time harbor master at Hilo at the moment. There's that one port on Maui that you can clear into, but then you're going to miss the Big Island if you're trying to see the Big Island. Someone said, "Do you do anything on the water simply for a challenge of doing it?" I don't understand that question. Thanks for the tip on the cruising the Coral Coast. I got 1,000 magic miles. And then the guys from Free Range Sailing told me they sent me the name of the Tasmanian cruising guide I need to pick up when I get there. They said they would have sent me theirs, but they think it was on the boat when they sold it. Someone asked if I made my hard Dodger. Yeah, I did. Oh, Sarah's asking me. Yeah, Sarah, will you post a link to the class link for me right now? I'm giving an anchoring Zoom class workshop 1 week from today. It's $35. It's probably going to be an hour and a half long. I'll be talking about all aspects of anchoring, and then we'll have Q&A, like small Q&A from between each of the sort of modules. And then at the end, it's going to be an open discussion about anchoring, so I can answer any questions people might have about anchoring. And Sarah's going to post a link to it in the chat right now. And then Sarah, after you post that, you might be able to pin it. If you do the dots on the side, you might be able to pin it to the top. Someone said, "What's the most you have learned or gotten from sailing experience so far? Just curious." Uh, that the world is much bigger and much smaller than I realized. That's probably the thing that like rings out the brightest. What else? Someone asked if I'm going past Sydney. Yes, indeed. Um, I will be in Sydney, end of April. What else? Let me see here. You guys got any more questions? We're at 140 minutes. I'm gonna start losing my voice probably in the next 20 minutes. So still got 151 people on. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate y'all tuning in. It's nice. Let me think. Trying to think. Lots of Kiwi content still coming up. A lot of like adventures of Great Barrier Island, Hauraki Gulf, my passage up. There's going to be like a passage film of my trip down the North Island to the South Island, which got pretty hairy in the Cook Strait. Got very hairy, actually. Made a stop in New Plymouth, which was really nice. I met Colin, who was on here earlier on the chat. I'm not sure if Colin's still here, but met Colin and his wife. We had coffee. That was nice. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's a whole, I don't know how many episodes we shot in Marlborough Sounds, but a ton of really incredible footage in Marlborough Sounds. So lots and lots of Kiwi content still to come up to close out my New Zealand time. Someone said, how much water do I carry? I don't know liters. So, but I carry 35 gallons in my belly tank, and then I carry like 10 gallons in jerry cans. Oh, Uncle Chuck. Nice that you guys tuned in. Very nice. It's funny. I think I have footage of Chuck talking about growing up net making in Hawaii on the Big Island, and if I can find it, I have been having trouble with this one hard drive that had a bunch of my Hawaii stuff on it. If I can get that footage, I'm going to release it as like an archive footage, an interview with him talking about his life growing up as a master net maker, and really fascinating Hawaiian gentleman, but had a lot of problems with this one hard drive with a bunch of footage on it. Someone says, mate, where's your Kiwi accent? You're one of us now. I'll leave the Kiwi accent to Rhonda. Although I have picked up a number of Kiwi words that I use on the regular, like booty boy and to Mickey and I guess jandals. I've been saying jandals lately. Someone asked if I read the Kon-Tiki expedition. Yeah, I've read it. I think that dude's a hack. But I really like the chapter of that book where they crash into the Tuamotus. That's like one of the most stressful bits of literature. It's a very, very well written. Are Pardee's books still applicable today? Would you recommend? I think that like there's definitely good ideas. I think the strength in all of those books from the 60s are the storytelling books and not necessarily the sort of like preparing your yacht to go cruising, because all of that stuff is outdated. There's like bits and pieces to learn in them. If you can find used books, then it's good. You know, you always learn something from a book. But I think that the real value in Lynn's books are like the storytelling books. And it's funny because back then, like publishers were encouraging yachties to just make these how-to books or like And all those books are outdated now, to where it was like, if they had just been publishing their stories, only publishing their like stories, sea stories, that those are still relevant forever. Joshua says, how would you compare cruising in French Polynesia compared to the issues of cruising in Hawaii? There's no issues in French Polynesia. Zero. And actually, I have an article coming out in Latitude 38, and the editor wrote me today. I think it's in the next issue that's coming out, where I talk about debunking the myths of cruising in French Polynesia. There's no issues. The main thing to know about cruising in French Polynesia is that don't anchor right in front of someone's house, and be respectful to the locals. Like, I remember writing Holly when I was in Hawaii, asking her, like, what's the deal there? Because I heard so many horror stories about French Polynesia. And Holly was like, if you're not an asshole, then people don't treat you like an asshole. It was literally, and I was like, that's easy enough. And I found that to be perfectly true. I never had any problems with any locals. Everyone was kind. If you're respectful to people, like, respect is a currency. And I had a fantastic time in French Polynesia. The thing I would say, Josh, about French Poly is get there as early as you can, so that, because like I ended up getting, like, I had to haul out in Hawaii, and I didn't know there was a 4-month wait to get hauled out to repair my rudder. So I got pushed. I lost an entire month of cruising in French Poly because of that situation. So I would just say make sure all your ducks are in a row so you can get to French Poly and be there for like 3 months. The other thing I would say is do not go to American Samoa. Like, if you want to go north above, if you don't want to go to Cook's, go to Independent Samoa. Don't go to American Samoa. It's the worst place ever. Independent Samoa would be amazing, and it's like 30 miles away from American Samoa, but I would say, like, go to the Cooks, go to Nui, go to Tonga. When I was going through there, everything in the Cooks was closed because of COVID still, except for Rarotonga. And I knew that was a really bad harbor, so I couldn't justify going there down into the tropical convergence zone. So that's why I went to American Samoa. But if I had to over again, I would never ever go to that place ever again. But Independent Samoa, my friends from Wamba went there and they showed me videos. It looks fantastic. But yeah, French Polynesia is fantastic. Someone said my mom loves watching your videos. That's awesome. If my mom was alive, I think she would like watching my videos also. Someone says, what's your favorite part of being a sailor? Where does your high start? I guess my favorite part of being a sailor is getting to see the world at what Andy Shell refers to as a human pace. Like, I've sailed nearly 10,000 miles at about 4 miles an hour. And like, being forced to slow down like that takes us back centuries. Which leads me to the other thing. Where does my high start? My high starts at the same aspect of like sailing that I first turned me on, which was like, it feels like time travel, like arriving into ancient ports, like in Raiatea, I anchored, left my dinghy tied up to the boat, and swam ashore, walked to the religious site of Aotearoa. I was there all alone in the morning. This ancient place, the center of all Polynesia. Like, I'm getting chills right now, like just telling you this. That's where my high starts. That and seeing any wild creature, whether it's a sparrow, a zebra dove, a manta ray, you name it. Any kind of like living creature, if I get to see that, that's why I'm out here doing this. What else? Someone said, what's your history before sailing? I was a visual artist and a musician for more than a decade prior to that. And my day job, I was an art handler for all the like largest galleries, museums, and private collections in California. I think I talked about it on the first 59 North interview. That's several years old, but I don't recall. Someone said, will you consider and upgrade your electronics anytime soon? Why? I don't understand that question. My electronics? Like, I have an iPad. That's all I use. So no, I'm good. What else? Someone said 170 liters. Okay, so that's how much water I carry. That's the other funny thing with Rhonda being on board is she doesn't know feet. And so the depth sounder and everything's in feet. And I won't change that. I kind of think in both meters and feet now, and I kind of talk in meters more than I do in feet, other than when it comes to anchoring, because I can't risk doing the math wrong or trying to buffer my brain to think about depths. So I'll I'll probably always keep my depths in feet because I can instantly know what the depth is. Oh my God. Goodbye, flat earther. I have zero tolerance. You get a lifetime ban, is what you win. Someone asked, does YouTube pay my way? YouTube has been my full-time job since 2021. The only thing I do other than YouTube is I write for all the major sailing magazines, but those paychecks are like kind of spread out pretty far, so you can't rely on those. Someone says, what is your current solar setup and does it meet your needs for ocean crossing? I have 400 watts of solar and I have 400 amp hours of lithium, Dakota lithium batteries, and all electric galley. And I have not plugged into shore power since June of 2021 anywhere. So yeah, my solar handles my business. Although we did like run the batteries flat when Rhonda came on board in the sounds because I thought there was something wrong, but she has a severe chamomile addiction. So she was making so much tea that the batteries got low. And I tested the batteries because I thought the battery monitor was just reading wrong. But also, I installed Starlink, and Starlink is really hungry. So it's a combination of like the new Starlink and then Rhonda running the kettle constantly. Well, I was drinking the tea also. So, but we got the batteries flat, which is funny. And once we realized what had happened, then we were using the jet boil for her like addiction. And we never had a problem again after that. I do think I might have Dakota send me another 280 amp hour battery. They came out with this new 280 amp hour. I might add that so we have 680 amp hours. And I would like to get like a smart alternator, but they're like $700 and I just don't have the budget for that. But I think that would be cool. But in the tropics, it's no problem with the sun. It got to be a little challenging at times here in New Zealand because there's so much rain. And Tassie will be the same way. But once we get back in the tropics, it'll be no problem. Ryan said, the New Zealand was hunkered down for the storm, got you hooked. Thanks for checking it out. Appreciate all y'all for watching the videos and everybody tuning in. Really appreciate the support. It's nice to get to hang out with y'all. What else? Any more questions? Creeping up on the 2-hour mark. Someone says, what do you see being the next big refit? Not until I get back to LA. And I don't even know that it'll be a big refit compared to what I did in the beginning. I mean, when we finish the circumnavigation in LA, I'll probably replace all the standing rigging just because of the amount of miles that were put on it. And I just had the engine rebuilt last year, so, and I just did the bottom, so I don't see, there's not any, I can't imagine what else, you know. Someone's asking if I'll do a chat for 150 subscribers or wait to 200. I mean, I do a live chats kind of at least every 6 months, I think. So I won't reach 150 for a minute. I think I'm about to hit 119, maybe. I can't remember. Someone said, "See you in Sydney, perhaps Pittwater." Yeah, we'll be in Pittwater quite a bit. I've heard that's like the spot to go for anchoring and stuff. Sarah's telling me to recap a bit of my trip before I sign off. So yeah, since I've been in New Zealand, I've visited 70 anchorages, and I've seen a ton, and it's been amazing. Everything, Bay of Islands, Hauraki Gulf. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate it. Hauraki Gulf, Whangaroa, sailed up around the Cape Reinga and down to New Plymouth, Cook Strait, Marlborough Sounds. I didn't make it to Tasman. I didn't make it to Fiordland, but you can't see it all. It's not possible. So I saw as much as I could in New Zealand. I definitely made the most of my time here, and yeah, it's been really fantastic. At some point, I will put out like a Aotearoa adventures book, similar to what I did for LA. I have one that's almost done for Hawaii that I'm going to be publishing, self-publishing, just like my other books, and then I'll do one for New Zealand as well. So yeah, it's been amazing to be here, but I'm also excited to move on and see new things. Next year is going to be Tasmania, the east coast of Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And then we'll be in Thailand probably 4 months. And then we'll be pushing across the Indian Ocean. Someone asked, do I run my fridge 24/7? Yeah, I keep my fridge on all the time. It shuts down when it gets cold enough and kicks back on, but it only draws like 3 amps. It's not a very hungry cold plate. Someone asked if I have iPad for Navionics. I don't know anything about Android tablets, so I can't speak to them. I have no clue. I use Apple products. What else? Oh, it's at the 2-hour mark, so maybe I can sign off. And thanks so much for everybody that showed up. Very kind of you guys to hang out with me. Still got 145 people in here. It's kind of shocking. You guys have any last minute questions? Someone asked if I have a Bitcoin Lightning address. I do have a Bitcoin address. It's in the description of all my videos is my Bitcoin address. You guys have any final questions before I tap out? I think I'm going to go get some Thai curry tonight. Treat myself. I've been very good about not eating off the boat, so I think I'll walk and go have some Thai curry. What else? Any more questions, y'all? Any more relevant questions, I should say? Thank you, Peter Franks. Really appreciate it. And Me Dog and Cat Adventure. That's a good, that's a fun handle. Thank you. See, I'm losing my voice. It always happens at the 2-hour mark. I start losing my voice. You guys make sure, anyone that's interested in finding out about anchoring, I'm going to pitch it one more time. I'm doing the Zoom workshop a week from today, $35 US. And I think it'll be an hour and a half long. I'm going to break down everything you need to know about anchoring, in like the basics of anchoring, how to deal with storms, the ground tackle for your boat. I'm going to touch on specialty anchoring. If the thing goes well, I might do another workshop like in a month or something on specialty anchoring. But yeah, so check that out. You can find out the link to buy tickets for that on my website, svtriteia.com. And yeah, thanks so much for y'all for watching the channel, for tuning in, to saying hi, hanging out with me on here. It's really fun. And yeah, it's been great. And once I get to Tasmania and Rhonda joins me, then we're going to do a live stream from Tasmania with Rhonda so you guys can meet her and you guys can hammer her with questions. Okay, I'm going to tune out. Love y'all. Thanks for everything, and fair winds until next time.